What's up, Nubians? Welcome to techn00bians, part of the Geekish Network. This is your weekly deep dive into video games in blackness. I'm your host, Cherie. With me are all the usual suspects. So right now we have our very own Gandalf the Black, Chuck.
What's up, everybody?
We got the lady of Lothlorien herself, Shanae.
Hey, folks.
If Legolas could code, our man Leon.
What's up, people?
The crafter of the One Ring, Ryan.
What's up?
And the wisest of us all, Travwise Gamgee. All right.
Who added that wisest of us all part in there?
Yeah.
What did you do? Hey.
I had to get the Gandalf the Black in there, though.
Love you, Travis.
So, for those of you who don't know, techn00bians is your weekly video game live stream podcast hosted by Black technology industry professionals to discuss the what, when, where, and how you can get into this world of technology, specifically video games. We are here to inspire, sustain, nurture successful creative technologists in the pursuit of Black excellence and a commitment to technology and content development. So, as y'all know, we usually like to kick these things off with tech and gaming news, and then we'll go into a long topic discussion. And this week, we are going to be talking about a beginner's guide to GDC. GDC is next week. And so we want to give everyone a sense of what to expect for GDC. We got a lot of folks on here on this call who are all GDC alumni. So we want to do that. We also have a new segment for everyone today that we're calling, Do You Have X Money? As in, do you have McDonald's money? So we'll get to it. Let's kick things off with our news segment. With news in our first segment, I would like to call this our techn00bians segment here.
Ooh.
I know, I'm
like that.
I'm doing puns today. I'm sorry.
techn00bians segment.
We're spicy today. I like it.
Spicy.
All right, Leon, will you kick us off with some news here?
Yeah, so big news this week came from Valve. They announced the Steam Deck, which is a portable PC that is very much based around the Steam platform. This isn't the first piece of hardware we've seen from Valve. You know, they've had, game controllers and streamers before, and actually a really solid VR headset, which is currently my headset of choice. But this is really interesting, right? Because it sits in this weird spot. It starts about $499. It sits in this weird spot between the Switch, which is clearly kind of a successful, device for kids. But as someone that plays games that are more, that are a little different, and someone who travels a lot, this is actually pretty appealing to me. What's interesting is where this sits, given what we're seeing. We're seeing some really competent entries from xCloud. I've got an Android phone here running Destiny at a pretty good clip right now. So from a travel perspective, that's already pretty interesting because I just need a phone and a little joystick. So on one hand, it is another device to carry, but it's also very capable. So I think, I don't think it's necessarily a challenge to Nintendo per se, but for gamers, it's an interesting option. And the last kind of thing I'll say on it is, for me on the Switch, indie games are what I play the most. So I play games like Hollow Knight, I play games like Dead Cells. Those games all start on the PC, and there is still a much wider library of indie games available on Steam than the Switch. So that for me is actually really interesting. So device ships in December. Pre-orders went live and sold out yesterday. So I missed one, but at the next opportunity, I think I'm going to pick one up.
Nice.
I got one on hold.
You got one on hold?
Yeah. Their website went down. It's only $5. Put it on hold. $5. I could do that.
Only $5.
Only $5, really?
Only $5. Put it on hold.
Dang. Okay.
I think it's a really interesting. This is a really interesting platform. A really interesting move we got here. The one thing I would say is I usually expect the Nintendo hate to come from Travis. So this is a little bit of that threw me off here, Leon. This. Maybe it's not Nintendo hate. Maybe it's a little bit of Nintendo like jabbing kind of thing. But
wild jab.
but I think it's interesting, and it's good. Good competition and stuff too, right? I love the Switch. It's it's one of my favorite consoles and stuff. Also for traveling and everything as well. But yeah, I'll take more options.
I got one here. I'm not hating too much.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I got one too. Let me give the Nintendo hate, because they were like, "Oh, we're gonna do our pre-orders for the OLED." And Steam was like, "Aha!" Valve was like, "Aha! We got something for you."
And Bluetooth.
And we got Bluetooth.
And Bluetooth.
We got Bluetooth. Matter of fact, you can dock this thing, pull out a keyboard and mouse, and we work as a full function computer.
The one thing it won't have is Nintendo games, and that's why we buy.
Until you put an emulator on it.
That's why we put with Nintendo.
You put the emulator
stuff, right? Is because I can get a Zelda, I can get a Metroid Dread, I can get all that
with my emulator I get from Steam too.
techn00bians does not endorse piracy.
We don't endorse piracy.
Here's at least my take on it is that we're getting to this point now where this content's coming to us. And this content is coming to us in many and varied ways, but with cloud computing being what it is, right? Soon all we're worried about is really like, what is the form factor, or what am I using to actually communicate with the software, right? Mm-hmm. And your newest iPhones, your newest Androids have practically that level of graphic superiority. Already with them. The problem is that you don't have a form factor. You don't have those tactile buttons. You don't have all that stuff. And so if I were getting it, that's what I did it for. I did it for the fact that, at some point I'd be able to stream like everything I want to. And, it feels good enough in my hands where I feel like I'm getting high quality gaming.
Yeah.
Port.
The thing I will mention, I have a little confession to make. I did pre-order the Switch OLED.
Of course you did.
Well, okay.
For reason though, right?
For a good reason. I'm going to give my dad my old Switch, and so I will take the new one.
He'll be upgrading from what was it, the
Switch Lite.
Yeah. This is my shocked face.
But I will say, this is the thing that's interesting. I will say when I first heard about the Valve's new system, it was actually like some article. I don't even remember what website it was, but the name of the article was Valve announces the Switch Pro. And so for a second I thought it was just like a gag or whatever. Then I went and looked at it. I'm like, oh no, this actually is like a gaming device. All right, so this is the thing I think is going to be kind of interesting. Like, it is, the Valve device is probably what more people were thinking, or were like, we're thinking the Switch Pro or Switch OLED was going to be. And, as we discussed last week, Nintendo always never gives you exactly what you're asking for. They hate their fans. I won't say they hate us, but they just never give people exactly what they're asking for. I don't know why we get tricked by it every single time. But I don't necessarily think that the audiences are going to be in conflict here, frankly.
I agree with that. I think it's really interesting, because Leon mentioned it for a second when he was setting up the story, but I think it's really interesting to really think about who are they trying to what audience are they trying to capture with this, right? Because essentially what they're doing is they're giving you another form factor to play Steam games on, to play your PC games on. That's not the same thing as, a Sony, a Nintendo, or a Microsoft with presenting a new console and like exclusive games to try and lure you away from other platforms. Steam is already out there. Steam is already a competitor to console platforms right now. So more than likely, it's probably not going to be like, oh man, I was a console gamer, but now I'm going to get this thing. Like, if you play PC games, it just gives you another option, another way to play PC games. I know some of my colleagues were talking about like why they were excited about it. They said, ordinarily I probably wouldn't get this, but to be totally honest, a lot of times when I want to sit down and play a game, my significant other wants me on the couch with them. So maybe I'll just get it so I can still play my game and also cuddle with my honey.
By the way, that does not work. That does not work.
I was gonna say.
I just said what people said they want to do.
Yeah, I understand that your
those are definitely guys saying that, right?
Your friends think in theory that should work.
That's what we want. That's not what we want.
That's what you want. That's not what you get.
What people want? Let's be honest.
Okay.
In the same room.
You get
cuddling one
I guess you're playing your little game, and I guess your game you can Netflix and chill with your games, huh? Is that what you
know?
Hey, I'm just saying where people's brains are going.
I'll tell you what we really want. We want our significant other to be around, but we want to be left alone as we play games. That's what we want.
I know, right?
I want to be loved alone.
We'll find out in December if there's a game and chill, if there's a Steam box and chill.
if that were the Steam Deck. Yeah.
The Steam Deck
so,
and chill, yeah.
So let's jump on here to the next story. So I have a little bit of an interesting story here. If y'all are familiar with this new film that's coming out called Roadrunner, it's a film about Anthony Bourdain. As you folks as our audience probably knows, he was like a famed chef, travel documentarian, had a couple shows across a few different networks and stuff like that, and tragically committed suicide a few years ago. And this new documentary is coming out, or I should say it purports to be a documentary that's coming out called Roadrunner, a film about Anthony Bourdain. I think just opened yesterday in theaters. And, you know, just like most documentaries, it stitches together like behind the scenes footage and like, you know, trying to kind of give you a more authentic sense of like the subject, which, you know, that's not unusual. The unusual thing that this documentary does is that includes words from Anthony Bourdain that Anthony Bourdain never actually spoke, but they are in his voice. And that's because it uses a deep fake. Essentially, the director like has 3 quotes in the movie that Bourdain narrates, I'll put in quotes, but there were no actual recordings of this. What he actually did was he worked with an AI company to develop a model of Bourdain's voice. And so it sounds like Bourdain is actually saying it. This was actually discovered by reporter, the New Yorker's reporter, Helen Rosner, because when she was interviewing Neville, he was talking, and I guess she listened to, you know, a clip of Bourdain's voice reading an email that he'd sent to a friend. And she was like, how do you have this clip of like him reading an email, a personal email? And then he acknowledged, oh yeah, we actually created this. So this of course raises a lot of ethical implications, because is it really a documentary anymore?
It's interesting.
So,
it's interesting.
Well, go ahead.
I worked with a company that they actually do digital doubles and they do deep fakes. And we had 2 actors come in, Zac Efron and Dwayne Johnson, come in and actually get copies of their bodies so they can personally own their bodies. Zac Efron in particularly got copied 12 times and he has no rights to those copies whatsoever. So he needed to root it right. And so since that's the new thing that people are getting, we came in and made the definitive copy of him in order for people to actually use those rights. So Baywatch wanted to make a remake of the movie Him and the Rock. They actually could and use him in a similar manner in which he's used. The thing is, if you write something, or if you have a personal quote, they're allowed to actually use that is because it's your words with your voice. And you get rights to both of those. So you pay the estate twice. I pay the estate for having the quote, and we pay you again for using the voice of that quote from that person.
I think the thing that seems weird in this particular case is that it's purporting to be a documentary. So, you know, when you think of something as a documentary, and you know, that gives it a certain amount of I don't know, credibility in your head, right? Like you're like, oh, okay. If I hear the voice or if I see video of the person the documentary is about, the person group, whatever the documentary is about, you assume that is, you know, actual legit footage. So I don't know what to think about this. This is really interesting. I mean, I don't think it's unethical, but it does feel weird. Go ahead, Travis.
Yeah.
See, it's we keep going back to, you know, these same common themes. You know, every time when we have these deep conversations about technology, right? You know, you can, should you, right?
Jurassic Park.
And to me, you know, all these things are things that we shouldn't run away from. We should embrace them and figure out how to deal with them in the here and now, right? Because like it or not, okay, technology is here and it's only going to get better, more convincing as you go along, right? So, you know, and of course it's going to start with the celebrities, but it'll filter down to just about everyone, right? Like, how much of your image do you own? Like your voice, your mannerisms, and everything else. And you know, I've seen plenty of documentaries, for example, that had clips from the person who actually spoke those clips, right? And so what's the difference between me extracting that and then doing a video with you in it versus, you know, so and then in those particular cases, and I already see Leon, like his wheels turning in. And so my point is that if you do something like that, we should have some means of saying this is taken out of context or so on and so forth, so people will know that I didn't actually say this way.
Right.
So we actually have we have prior art there in this regard, right? So we have been, through technology, we've been able to artificially create precious gems artificially for a couple decades now, right? I can create a fake diamond, it's just carbon. I can create a fake ruby, but the requirement is anything that's created artificially has to be digitally marked in some way so that you can tell the difference. And this is great because if I'm building a diamond tip drill to drill under Seattle, right? You know, I want to use the synthetic stuff because it's cheaper, because I may go through 6 or 7 of those. So there's already some prior art. So I think what we'll see, because this is inevitable. If you act for a living, your profession is screwed because this is going to get, you know, think about where we have seen games in our lifetime go from Pong to stuff that's photorealistic today. We're just going to continue to see a quantum leap. And I saw this deep fake audio tech. It was about 10 years ago. Adobe premiered it at a show, and all they have to do is they just have to get the range of your phonemes, which means that if you have any kind of speaking part, you have probably recorded every phoneme out there, and they can use that. It is your voice, right? You may not have said it, but it is your voice. And now we're into like the ship of Theseus, you know, for those of you vision, right? Like, is it really you? If Chuck said, well, you wrote those words and I've composited this from this voice, did you really say it? So I think there are some really, like, in terms of politics and gotcha, there are some scary scenarios there. But in terms of entertainment, there's also some cool stuff too, right? You could have 20-year-old Harry Belafonte running aside a 20-year-old Denzel, you know, in some kind of film, right? So there's some really interesting things that'll come out it, and like any technology, right? You hope in mass that it's good, but there can be some bad things too.
Does this like scare, like seriously, like, we know enough about technology to see where this goes, right? And I think that honestly, realistically, we're at this inflection point as far as technology is going, where it's bona fide, like, scary stuff, right? Like, you can see how this can be used for evil, like, very, very easily. And you know, and so for me, I don't know how I feel about a lot of this technology, because it's getting to a point where it can be used for some
well, honestly, this stuff is when I hear this, it sounds kind of old already. Because I mean, for a couple of years now, we've already had like facial recognition technology. There's technology where you can swap people's faces, and you can do this stuff live. I use something right now called Art Breeder, and it literally just swaps out multiple images and it combines them, and there's a slider when you can push one and you push left, and it's literally just manipulating a 2D image.
Well, you know, I mean, it's worse than it's worse than that though, Ryan.
That's what I'm saying.
What I'm saying is, I remember when we first started working together, right? And I would give you an art task, for example, right? Seriously, that art task can be done with a button now. Right? Yeah. And that's what I'm saying, right? Like, your sophisticated art task got reduced to a friggin' button now, right? And so just imagine when full-on 3D manipulation of photorealistic, things, like, it's going to get to a point where it's like, oh, I want to generate a Phantom Ryan. All right, it's 10 clicks, not one. Wow.
This is like the birth of the T-2000, man. Terminator is coming. We're just going to have an exoskeleton of like this digital stuff that's just...
It's going to look, and the Terminator is coming and it's going to look like, I don't know, Anthony Bourdain.
One thing I put in the chat, there's some guy made called Uber Duck AI, and it's actually voices. Or you can actually make voices.
But wouldn't it be dope though if you got a Terminator who could tell you whether or not that pie was delicious?
Like, listen to this. Listen to this. Listen. This is Jay-Z. This is Jay-Z. Listen to this.
Nope, can't hear it.
You can't hear it. Oh, y'all are missing out.
That was great. That was great.
So one quick comment, guys, because I think that this is really interesting, is because the deepfake technology, as Leon mentioned, it's been around for like a decade, but it really sort of came into the public consciousness like what, 4 or 5 years ago? Maybe not even 4 or 5 years ago. And I think when it first started, like, you know, hitting the wider scope of folks, everyone was really freaked out about it, and then we sort of forgot about it. And then it sort of just became a thing that we accepted existed. And now every once in a while, when it pops up in a new use case, we're like, oh my God, should I be freaked out about this? Like, honestly, I'm like, oh yeah, deepfakes, they're still a thing. We never really settled.
The problem is,
but I have one last question, just real quick, is Leon, you said you want to drill underneath Seattle. Is that where your like evil base is going to be? Like evil lair? What is the
No, actually, Leon. I'm keeping my evil installation in the Midwest. There's better fresh water supplies and
more land,
cheaper. The cost of living is much cheaper. It makes a lot more.
Exactly.
Okay.
Just had to clear that up.
The biggest issue is technologies escaping our political legislatures. They're so old. They just got used to using the facsimile machine in 2029 and 2021.
Escape. They are decades behind on tech.
Yes,
they are.
Well, I mean, when your average age is like 62 years old, I don't know about y'all's parents. I don't expect my mother to be able to legislate anything that deals with technology. I'm never explaining it to her.
I know we got to move on. Just last comment. How many political people have we had that have bragged about the fact that they don't have email?
Right? Yeah, I know, right? Like, and that's supposed to be like, you know, a selling point. You know, as we move on here, I will just close with saying that, you know, in terms of like the ethical implications of this, you know, the one of the reporters did talk with Neville, who was the director, about it, and he seemed a little bit flippant. He just said, we'll have a documentary ethics panel about it later. So,
like I said,
yeah, we're gonna keep seeing this. Let's move on. We have one more story for folks. Chuck, you want to give us the story?
Yes. So NBA 2K22, one of the biggest games, is going to probably come out this year because they're in their 25th anniversary edition. They have a 25th anniversary special edition, and they actually gracing the cover with Candace Parker. For people that don't know who Candace Parker is, she's the woman. She's a WNBA player. She plays for the Chicago Sky. She's a forward. She's 6-time WNBA All-Star, 2-time WNBA MVP, and 2016 WNBT Finals MVP. And she would be on the cover by herself.
Nice.
And this has never happened on a sports game. And we've been making sports games since I've been little. So this is shockingly astounding, and it's shocking, I mean, because it took 25 years for this game to put a woman on the cover when there's been a number of women they could put on the cover, such as when they introduced the WNBA. They could have actually graced the cover with women.
Yeah.
So I don't know, are the WNBA players in this version?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Is this the first? Is this the first time they've ever been in?
I think this is the first time they've actually had the whole entire league in.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, so big up.
They can't know that. No, the WNBA was added to 2K 3 years ago. 3 years ago, actually.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought that was a little while ago, but I haven't played them, so I couldn't.
Then they're like 2 years too late, right? But still, that's dope. I mean,
still 25 years too late. Because I mean, this is the thing that's interesting. Like, you know, we used to work on some of the sports game back in the day, and this was always a constant sort of struggle where the real world politics around men's sports and women's sports infected the video games as well, all the way throughout it, not just with the players, but also with the fans. I've probably told the story before about a certain version of a very popular football game introducing a create a fan option, or create a fan feature, where you could not create a female fan. Like, there was no such thing as a female football fan in this world, in this game world, for a long time. I don't know if they ever fixed that or not. You know, so
and I can mention, by the way, there was also another very popular version of a very popular racing game where you could create your own driver, but you could not create a female driver. And the justification was,
so how did they do Danica then?
Well, you could have her. She existed, right? But you couldn't create if you're creating your own driver, you couldn't create a female driver because they said, well, there's only one. I'm like, okay.
Wow.
That's the problem. That's exactly why.
First of all, there's not only one. There's only one professional in that sport.
Thank you.
Sponsorship.
Very
true. There are a ton of women drivers.
I know, but I'm just saying the reason the numbers are so low is because y'all are making them low.
I say that too. My cousin was
sexism system.
Yeah.
What's crazy about that is the easiest way to get diversity in your video game is to create a character and let people make whatever the heck they want.
Yes.
Right? It is easy mode diversity and embracing diverse audiences. So it's just like, if you can't put that model in there, it's like, are y'all just stupid?
You know, I don't know if you heard, women are really hard to animate. And
yeah.
You don't have the technology yet. We can fake your voice. We can't fake your curves.
But we cannot put you in the game.
Well, hat tip to Candace for being in the game.
Yes.
That she made the cover. Well, I hope they gave her the same amount of money they're giving the men for gracing the cover too.
You know they wouldn't dare.
Not,
yeah, they would.
Well, there is one downside here, which is the tendency for people on the covers of sports games to get injured horribly during the season.
Yeah.
So there's some risk here.
Yes, there is some risk. There's a risk.
Is this a Madden curse though? I think it's just a Madden curse.
It's also it's an MMA curse too, because MMA, you get beat. Rhonda and what's his name?
See,
Gregor. They both got beat that year.
People just don't have any idea about causality, right? You on the cover, you popular. People want to fight you.
Yes.
So they can get on the cover next time, and then they can get fought.
Yeah.
Like that's why last year gender parity is in. I want everyone to have a chance to get injured in their relative sport, regardless of gender, of race, of sexual or gender identity.
We'll reach the mountaintop.
Yes, that will be the mountaintop. It's not the mountaintop we wanted to reach, but
I just might buy that. I just might buy that game just because I want to support that.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
it would do well for that game to do spectacular numbers, if not for that reason.
You can learn how to play and go online and try to play and get your butt handed to you.
Oh,
that's what they do.
I got plenty of nieces and nephews that can do that. We can keep my ass kicking all in the family. We don't have to.
Boy, I tried to go online and play a basketball game. I had no business doing that. No,
dude, like, yeah.
I was like, this ain't fair. This ain't
find the old head. You gotta find the old head leagues, man. You know.
I don't need squeaky voice people going Kobe. I don't need that. Yeah, I don't need it.
All right, folks, let us move on to our long topic. As I mentioned before, we are going to talk about a beginner's guide to GDC. Mm-hmm. And, first, I just want to mention, GDC, just like I believe it was last year, is going to be all digital this year. And as I think as I teased at the beginning of the show, I think everyone on this call has been to GDC with the exception of moi. So I'm actually very interested here. Oh no, actually I have been to GDC, I guess once or twice. Sorta.
What happened? Were you that drunk?
Yes, that was one.
Okay, I'll say it like this. I
could have been there.
I had been to GDC, but not necessarily under my own name. I'll say it like that.
Okay.
Incognito.
We don't talk about bad sharing here. That's
incognito. That's where I was. But yeah, I would love to hear. Like, I mean, for those folks though who are like actual like veterans who've been there specifically for your work and stuff like that, I'd love to hear a little bit about like some of your experiences. But let's start with, what is GDC? So who wants to talk a little bit about like what this is, why it's important?
Well,
Travis should talk because he remembers when there wasn't a GDC.
Go ahead, Travis.
He worked in games before there was games.
Whatever.
Before Heat and Light.
So it was originally actually called the Computer Game Developers Conference. So it was actually CGDC. And it was started in '88. By a famous game designer. His name is Chris Crawford, and it was in his living room. Right. And you know, if you check the list of all the attendees back then, it was all the old EA people, basically, you know, and eventually it, you know, they shortened it to just Game Developers Conference. And the reason they did that is because it wasn't just computer games that, you know, people were doing. It was also, you know, console games and other games in general. So it's usually held in the Bay Area. There's been some times where the, you know, the Game Developers Conference has been other places, but it's usually downtown San Francisco. And it's basically our version of like a Sundance or something like that. It's where all the gaming professionals get together and they talk shop. They educate one another on trends, things that they've done bad, things they've done well, postmortems. You have roundtables where you can actually see industry professionals like go back and forth and talk about things that maybe they agree or disagree on. You have full-on like multi-day workshops where they take you through like, you know, how to be a better 3D programmer or 3D artist, or how to do VR, or how to do any of those things. So it's really a place like if you just gotten into the industry, trying to get into the industry, or trying to give back to the industry, you go to the Game Developers Conference to kind of meet your people and drink a whole lot.
Oh, of course.
Like
add on
a whole lot.
Can I add on a little bit what Travis said?
Go ahead.
Like that's, you know, absolutely, like everything you described, like that's what GDC is. It's our industry. It's our industry-focused conference, as opposed to like your E3s and Gamescom or PAX, which are a split between press and public. But the other thing that's interesting about GDC is it is essentially, it has like its own gravitational pull. So there's not only is there the event itself, but there's so many other events that are happening in the area of GDC because they know that people are coming from across the globe in a lot of cases to that point. And a lot of times, these are like, for some folks, this is the only time they'll ever go to GDC, or they'd only get to go like once every 3-4 years. So it's a chance for all kinds of things to happen. It's not just the conference itself is like the nexus point, but if you, what's the name of that hotel on the corner where everybody is? Like there's Thirsty Bear,
the W is always
like you will see
St. Regis.
Yes, you'll see game developers everywhere, and so many different conversations and deals and just reunions and stuff happen there. We used to have an annual Midway reunion there, which you know, has fallen off in recent years because GDC is been online.
Tell everybody about the glance, by the way. Like you get it, you know, like, you know, where you don't necessarily remember who that is that you're talking to.
Oh, God.
And so you glance down at their badge.
Yes.
Okay, that's okay.
I intentionally, like, I just actually, you know, I just moved, so I just found a bag of all of my badges from like every convention. There's a lot, but yeah, it's like you always, you know, you got your little like GDC badge that you wear around your neck, your lanyard, and I always make sure I put a business card in there too, because I fully expect people are going to be like, who was that again? Oh, it's Shayna. I'm like, see, and that's how I know you didn't remember. You look down at my badge and they mispronounce my name. But it's like, that's the thing. It's like, there's so you will be literally, there's like what, 20, 25,000, 30,000 people every year. Yeah. You'll meet hundreds of people and you'll make like deep connections with probably just a handful. And yeah, it's, I love it. I think it's one of the greatest things. Even if you don't go to a single talk, it's a great moment to just be around your people, I guess.
I think one thing to also stress is that there are multiple levels of activities at GDC. And as you change in your career, you will attend GDC for different things. So as a developer, I attended GDC to actually learn, right? I actually went to the sessions on DirectX or a particular piece of technology. When I became an account manager for Xbox, I didn't even go in the hall. I basically stayed in the bar at the W and met with Electronic Arts and Valve and everybody else just right there, right? Then you
while he drank a lot.
While I drank a lot. You have events like Women in Gaming, you have events like Blacks in Gaming after hour. Like the after hour scene is huge, right? Like you're always trying to get with people parties. You have if you're looking for a job, there's no better place to look for a job if you're in gaming than go to GDC.
The lobby of the W is also a pretty good place for an interview too.
It really is.
Yeah. And if we could just like, by the way, I will mention that as an interloper at GDC, that was usually the reason why I was there, was to go to the job floor.
Yeah.
But yeah. I mean, you have an event where you have all the recruiters there, and they're actively trying to find people. They're trying to find talent. So it's an excellent opportunity.
And there's tracks, right? So if you're an engineer, there's an engineering track. If you're an artist, there's an artist track. There's multiple art tracks. There's even an audio track and sound track. There's boot camps.
Summit, I think, actually.
Yep. There's a summit. There are boot camps. There's all kinds of things for people there.
It's also a cool place because you're with your peers, so you can have some direct conversations. Like I was on a panel. This was like in the early 2000s about minorities in games, right? And there was one particular game that had Confederate symbols in there. I was like, well, that wasn't a very positive minority image to have in your game. And they're like, well, but I was just like, we're here, we're talking about this here. So that's a great place. I've brought those subjects up many times. If you ever want to see the publisher, also if you ever want to see the publisher developer war on full display, GDC is a great place to see that.
So GDC is going to be all digital this year, and as I mentioned, I think it was all digital last year as well. How did it change the experience? Did any of folks here go to GDC last year?
No, I
yes.
I guess that's how it changed the experience.
But
yes,
and I do. Just sitting here and listening and everybody talk about GDC. It's funny because, and then I started to compare it to other other media or other professions. It started reminding me of like Fashion Week and other things, because what all those shows do in Paris and so on and so forth is they show you like fashion forward things, right? And you don't see that stuff until 3 years later at Target or at Macy's, right? It's the same thing that happens at GDC actually, is, everyone's talking about, this 3D, or they're talking about some sort of immersion, and it's not until 3 years later where it's all mainstream, where people realize, okay, that's what people were talking about at GDC. Personally, I think that the future of GDC is going to be both digital and in person, right? Yeah. Because GDC typically, and it was what you were alluding to earlier, Cherie, you got GDC money. GDC is not cheap.
It's not.
Right? In order to really have like the full experience, right? Just in fees alone could be over $3,000.
Yeah.
Right? And so if your company isn't funding that, do you have GDC money? And it's a real thing. I'm not here to speak to whether or not it's worth it or not. I think that's an individual thing, but your mileage may vary like a lot. But I think to close this out, at least for me, is if there's a robust sort of online experience that you can do at GDC for a slightly less price, then maybe that'll influence more people to actually take part in such a way where both of those economies can do well.
Yeah. So I think it's a good place actually for us to jump into our segment here. Do you have GDC money segment?
GDC money? Yes.
Yeah. Do you have GDC money? I mean, so y'all have talked a lot about some of the good, right? Mm-hmm. Like the camaraderie and everything like that. They also have an indie showcase there, don't they?
They do have an indie showcase there.
Yeah. Like that was where I spent my time, was just one indie showcase and the jobs floor. That's where I was going back and forth. But like as you mentioned, Travis, like GDC is not free.
GDC
so like we talk a little bit about that. Like,
sorry.
Do you have GDC money to be able to go there? We talked about some of these things. Go ahead, Nat.
Yes. I'm sorry. It's like absolutely said. Like GDC takes place in one of the most expensive cities just in the country, in the world.
In the world.
San Francisco. If y'all have not been to San Francisco recently,
rent is too damn high.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And hotels make that know you coming, so they're like, we're gonna charge
so they raise
top
their
dollar.
price around GDC.
No, this $60 hotel room that people normally get, we're gonna charge $250.
Yeah.
Then we're gonna hit you with all the taxes. It'll be $310 a night.
God help you if you didn't book your stuff months in advance. You're left $400 and $500 night rooms is what you're gonna be looking at here. And then some folks are like smart. They're gonna be smart, like, oh, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna book a place down in the peninsula, and I'm just gonna drive up every day. Good luck with that. I'll be sitting in traffic for at 90 minutes. You will be our keynotes.
Yep.
State life, trust me.
Have fun trying to find parking too.
Yeah, and the Moscone centers are in downtown San Francisco. All right, so parking is expensive. We're talking about $35 a day parking. The city is expensive. The food's expensive. It's good food, but the food's expensive.
That's why the best thing you can do is make friends.
And the last thing is there's a lot of construction going on in the area too,
all the time.
So like, not only is it expensive, but downtown San Francisco has become a little bit of an unfriendly spot for folks who are from out of town, folks who are locals, but also folks who are out of town. So there's been lots of pushes around, like saying, hey, maybe GDC should move to a different location that is more accessible, cheaper,
in a different month.
Yeah. Oh, man, all that.
Because they put it in the winter, like, hey, we're gonna have this conference at in winter. It's not yet spring.
It's like February, March in San Francisco. I don't know if it's a winter like a real place that has winter.
Yes.
It don't snow here.
No, but it gets cold though.
It does.
Particularly at night.
Bring your sweater, bring your scarf. Otherwise, you're gonna be down there at the pier with one of those $45 San Francisco branded sweaters because you walked out there thinking you could wear shorts all day.
Yeah.
If you're just getting into this industry though, right? If you haven't shipped anything just yet, you're trying to get in. I mean, I can only, I'm smiling because I can only imagine how magical GDC must be, right? Like, seriously. I mean, you're going to have the opportunity to run into, casually, probably like some of your legends, right? And find that they are very real people. They are very real people who will talk to you. I mean, in this industry, you do have your share of jerks, but I say by and large, people are very nice.
Yeah.
And if you came up to one of your, somebody that you were like, oh man, you made this, or you're this art director or so on and so forth, they're gonna talk to you. They're gonna gonna keep it real because they know like that road.
Yep.
So if you're thinking about it, go on the cheap, right? Like, seriously, like there's discounts you can get for being a student or just if you want to walk the show floor or the job fair, the expo pass, do that. Like, go there, and if you can't even get an expo pass, trust me, go to any hotel in that area during that time period, because it is filled with people who are doing nothing but talking about games, living those games, like, sharing war stories and drinking heavily, right? And so,
you keep emphasizing this drinking. No, let's say there's other programs they can come into, right? There are programs such as the Conference Associates, which is you're a volunteer for the conference. You volunteer, then you give 20 hours of your time. Then they let you do whatever you want to do.
Yep.
And as a conference volunteer, people do talk to you. People will answer you, and people will come to you that you have no idea where they're going or what they're doing. A lot of old school veterans, they're like, I swear that room was down this hall. And they'll talk to a conference volunteer. The conference volunteer have no idea who they're talking to.
I mean, GDC was where
I've been with that. And they were like, oh, is that person important? Like, yeah, that's Kojima. Like, what? Like,
that was mildly important.
Yeah, GDC was where I met Shigeru Miyamoto like 10 years ago. I still have his business card. I mean, it's exactly what Travis said. I think that E3 gets a lot of the attention because it's like the hype. It is like, well, I don't know what would you describe E3 as? Like, if GDC is our fashion week, E3 is what? I don't know. It's like Times Square on steroids or something like that. Yeah. It's a theme park. It's
the theme park.
It's like sounds and noises and new games and new all these kind of things. All announcements. but like I don't go to when I'm at E3, I'm usually there working. When I'm at GDC, don't get me wrong, there's definitely work, but there's also like I want to go to GDC every year because I want to be able to be, you know, have those conversations, have those like those chance encounters, like learn and just get better at your craft. So I mean, honestly, like what Travis said, like if you're an indie game dev and you have an option to go to an E3 or a GDC, go to GDC.
Yep.
Like without question.
Without question.
The thing that I just want to highlight though about the cost is that this is not a cheap industry, right? If you want an Xbox or a PlayStation 3 dev kit, that's going to cost you several grand to get into that program, or any of the hardware platforms that are out there. This stuff, it builds up over time. So there's travel. So you have to put this into the calculus if you're going to build games. Even if you're building PC games, you're going to literally have to chop off an arm and sell it on the black market to get a video card.
Maybe not literally, but figuratively, yes.
Yeah.
I think Leon just told us what his supervillain business plan is. He's drilling under Seattle and he's selling chopped off arms for video cards.
Yeah.
To do cryptocurrencies. To do crypto. That's what y'all know. Y'all don't know. What are you gonna say, Ryan?
Ryan, you're gonna mention something.
I'm sold. I've never been to GDC. How do I get in?
Oh wow.
Well,
is there an application?
It's all online this year, so really all you need is a credit card.
Yeah, credit card.
Is it the same cost? Is it the same cost? The digital version?
They've actually
it's less.
They've discounted it, but there's a big asterisk next to that because we're not talking about like GDC in previous years. I think for an all access pass, it was well over $2,000.
$29.95.
Yeah,
to be exact.
So do an online conference?
No, online conference. That's in person.
But
it's in person.
It's still, I'm not sure how much it is, but it's still over $1,000 even for the all access pass for online too.
Ryan ain't got GDC money.
I ain't got no GDC money.
No, but it's less. As a professional,
right empty wallet.
It looks actually for an expo pass, it's $249. All access is $1,200.
Yep. Yep.
So it is.
That's the thing. Like we're talking about why a lot of seasoned game developers go to GDC, and a lot of times we go there for, like I said, for the camaraderie, for the connections, for the in-person things. So I can tell you for last year, I mean, everyone was trying to figure out by the time GDC rolled around last year, we were still trying to figure out what this pandemic was and how many masks do I need to wear on my face, right? Now that's rolled around this year, it's like so many conventions have gone to online. And when I think about what I usually think of GDC for, I can't get that with just a fully online conference. You start to do the math in your head of like, do I put $1,200 down
for all access
conference, or do I maybe do the vaults later or something like that?
Yeah,
or do I just wait till next year, where we probably will have more of a hybrid situation going on?
And I tell everybody, you think it's really high, but you get access to the vault, so you get years going back to like 96, 95, 96 of conference talks. So some of your greatest game designers have done conference talks, some of your greatest engineers, some of your greatest artists. You'll see some of the independent showcases of games of great mechanics that just didn't make it off the ground. Because one thing to make a game off the ground is have the marketing behind it. There's a lot of great games out there, and they're just in the wasteland because they're still in the badlands. They're not bad games. They just had no support. But you can find those things and find people that were talking about them and when they made them.
Yeah, and lastly, GDC has an award show that they do every year as well.
Yes. So, that's what you've been to.
That's what I've been to. That's what I have. I mean, if you look it up, you will not see my name there. But I was there.
So the reason why I love the Game Developer Choice Awards too, and they also have the Indie Game Festival Awards. Is it is a chance for folks in the industry to, it's kind of like our Oscars. It's a chance for us in the industry to give their flowers to the people who've been really doing like amazing work that pushes the industry forward. This is like, it is not like, unlike some of the other award shows like that too, like that are more fan driven, like this is industry driven. So it's kind of insular, but it's also sort of like, I would like to get one of those one day. I think that'd be
amazing. You got something better than that. No, let's not discount what you really got. Let's not discount that. Because there's a group
This is a yes and. I would like both, please.
Yes. I hear you. I hear you. But you got the Oscar. What that is like a daytime Emmy. What we gave you. What are you talking about?
I'll take the I want my EGOT is what I'm saying.
No, I get it. Oh, I get it. So this is it, right? So there's Black in Gaming, this organization. Not only do we have the best party at GDC, we also have the best award show. Yep. And we have them both at the same year. We had it one time where we had 4 events in 1 week. I was trying to make 7, but only one person can do so much. But we have an award show, and the award show sponsored by, it was PlayStation and EA. And then we had a party that was sponsored by Microsoft Xbox. And not only do you show up to these events, they give away stuff. It's the only party where they're handing out consoles and games and free food. And then you're surrounded by Black people that dance on rhythm. Well, that's a whole different party celebration. Right?
A whole different like vibe.
And it's a vibe, and we invite everybody to come in, but only a select few do come in. They're not in our community, and everybody's allowed, but some people are just scared to be around a whole room of Black people at an all predominantly white conference.
Let me tell you something. Like, I've been going to GDC for a long time. I remember being the only Black dude, or like one of the few.
But Travis, you were the only Black dude on this planet for a long time.
But
you that old.
But honestly, like, I remember starting to work at Sigil, and them saying, "Oh, our producer Leon," and I was like, "I have never met a white Leon, so I know it's a Black dude, right?" And when we met for the first time, we gave each other the look, like, I see you. And he said, "Yeah, I see you too," right? And nothing makes me feel better at the Game Developers Conference than going to Black in Gaming and seeing a room full of my people doing our thing well, my friend. Not just by hook or by crook, well. And I dig that with every ounce of my being.
That feels like that is worthy of a Wakandan. Like,
that's what we're doing now.
What's going on here,
Yeah, man.
So, all right, folks. Well, I think we are nearing the end of our show here. I do want to do a quick check before we get out of here and just see what people are playing. Because I will mention, I finally finished Mario plus Rabbids last night. I thought it was going to take me forever. I thought it was going to be next year before I finished it. So I have finally finished it. Now I can go back on to, I don't know, Skyward Sword or some other random game that's been waiting in the wings for forever. So Shanae, what are you playing right now?
Well, I just finally booted up my PS5 again for the first time since I moved. And I made the mistake of putting Returnal back on. And my Returnal hands like that. Oh my goodness. I gotta commit like the next 2 weeks to like build it back up again, or I might just moving on to Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart so I can.
Yes, I want to play Ratchet and Clank. Let me borrow your PS5.
No, come on over. You can watch me play.
Come on. All right, Travis, what are you playing?
I'm back on Hades because somebody told me how God mode works, so I'm on it.
There you go, man. There you go.
Good.
Leon, what you playing?
No games this week. I actually went back to being a maker and built a robot. I'm actually currently writing software, some facial recognition.
That's why he's taking arms.
Okay, so everybody, that's Leon, doing his low key like tech flex on everybody. You know what I'm saying?
I'm building robots over here.
There's a prototype that's going to be burrowing under Seattle right there.
I'm working on the facial recognition to attack Travis on site.
Okay, can you please fix this facial recognition for Black folks, please? Please do that.
And you need to name it Sparky. You're like, getting Sparky. Just attacks Travis.
Ryan, what are you playing?
I'm in the same boat with Leon. I haven't been playing, but I've been watching my daughter play Roblox. She's
Oh, yeah,
playing
yeah.
that a lot. So
Yeah.
That's gonna cost you.
No, get her to be a developer. I've been seeing kids making millions off of it.
It's still gonna cost you.
Yep. She's on it though.
Literal millions.
Awesome. Chuck, what are you playing?
There's two things I've been playing. Miles Morales, which is amazing, and
Nice.
Pokemon Go. And they're taking my effing money right now.
Okay.
They are taking my effing money.
And I'm gonna be honest. I was very close to starting Pokemon Go back up again.
Man, it's a different game.
I gotta check it out. They made bank of the pandemic.
You can actually battle in it.
Can I say something really important? I need to give a shout out. The head of quality assurance for Pokemon Go is a Black developer.
Yes, he is.
So,
awesome.
And a good friend of mine. So shout out.
Shout out. All right. Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for the fabulous conversation as usual. We're going to close up the show. I do want to give another shout out to Digital Click. They do all the creative that you see here on the show for each and every show. And if you want to learn more about techn00bians, hit up our website at techn00bians.com. That's techn00bians.com. Please follow us on Twitch and all of our socials. If you like our vibe, and we hope you do, please consider subscribing to our channel. Follow the Geekish Network also on all major platforms and all for all the social media. And check out the schedule for the shows of the Geekish Network here on our Twitch page. Tonight we have Pod Squadron. Tomorrow we have Nerdtastic. And we will see you all next week. Thank you all for watching.
Peace.
Peace.